not tracking the alts.
I'm looking at a couple, but they're too high up and they need to come back down. This is how it's always been.
Yeah. But you're pretty bullish over the next few years, right?
Well, I think this year we're going to hit 1 million.
You think we hit 1 million this year?
If not this year, next year. But it's coming very soon.
So I saw you say that. I didn't know if you were just... It was like a meme for you. Well, I'll win my bet with Mike Green then.
You will.
So I bet him 100K this year.
You're going to win.
Yeah. Okay, tell me your thesis for 1 million this year, next year. Because I did an interview 2 days ago with Checkmate, the Glassnode guy. Me and Danny, we all did a bet at the end, a 100K sats bet. And mine was, by the end of 25, I went for a top of 380. Danny went 250. I think Checkmate went 200. So we're all... I mean, I'm a third of yours there. All right, give me your thesis.
The thesis is so many things. I mean, the whole setup we have right now is perfect for a run-up. You have demand far outstripping supply, and supply about to be cut. Halving is in a month and change.
Yeah.
The ETFs alone are pulling in about 22,000.
Isn't the net inflow about 3,500 a day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, given that the exchanges have about 2.2 million, maybe less. Like last note says 2.2. I think it's less.
Yeah.
And the demand is like 3,000-4,000 a day just from ETFs alone. That doesn't leave us a lot of time to drain that pool of Bitcoin.
Hold on. What's that in a year? If they keep up at the same demand, although I said we're having new record days, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
3, 6, 5, 4,000. I mean, that's 1.4 million. That's nearly 1.5 million a year.
Yeah.
Okay, I see your thesis.
So demand is like 10x now. It's going to 20x. So the price should react accordingly. Even if that doesn't happen, you have the concept of the Veblen effect and the Veblen threshold, which
Veblen effect?
Veblen is Veblen goods are what were theorized. Like a luxury good is valuable because it is valuable.
Okay.
But I just twisted it a bit and called it the Veblen effect. But as Bitcoin becomes more valuable, it just becomes more desired because it is valuable. And there's a threshold at which you cross. I think that threshold is probably parity with gold market cap, which is about $450,000 to $500,000 a coin.
Okay.
Once you cross that Veblen threshold, you start to demonetize gold because now this thing is gold. It's multi-trillion dollar, we're already trillion, but like 8 to 12 trillion dollar market cap. Then you start to eat into gold because people see it as equivalent to gold. It's the new gold. And I think the media narratives will say the same thing. That's an important threshold when we pass gold. That's at the point at which gold starts dropping and people start moving the value they stored in gold into Bitcoin.
I think that's already happening for some as well.
I think so. But it'll happen en masse when you outstrip gold. Rest in peace, Peter Schiff.
Okay. So I'm really bullish as well. I've seen what the ETFs are hoovering up. I'm still cautious about BlackRock. I'm still skeptical of BlackRock.
In which way?
I mean, they're going to have more coins than Michael Saylor in the next few days.
Yeah.
They're a big player in the market. And they possibly end up with the biggest stack in the market. And so they become a key player. Mm-hmm. What meetings are they having, which Bitcoiners and when, to maybe exert influence at certain points? Will they be the ones who say, actually, we do need CTV or don't need it? Like, what influence are they going to try and have? What influence may come from central government to them to influence Bitcoin? We've been very critical of BlackRock in the past for the ESG nonsense, for them hoovering up large parts of the housing market, especially 2008. They've not always been, a good player in markets.
No, I think you have to assume that they're going to be a bad actor.
Yeah.
You should assume everyone's going to be a bad actor. And this is why you need decentralization of a lot of things, especially mining. You need devs that are not all in one jurisdiction. You need miners that are not all in the US. And I think you need countries that are adopting it too.
Yeah.
This is how you mitigate that risk. So I think the work we're doing at Jan 3 to onboard nation states is critical because, BlackRock has a lot, US government has a lot, China has a lot, but let's get some into Argentina. Let's get some into, Brazil. Let's get some into India. And then it's a competition between BlackRock and nation states, which I think equals out that balance of power.
Yeah, I mean, so look, I do think there's a point where the price does go parabolic because at the moment it's really the ETFs, Michael Saylor, and some retail, or they're the main players at the moment.
And Tether.
But of course, Tether are buying a lot.
Yeah.
But that's 3 or 4 main players. What happens when you get 40 or 400 or 4,000? Where Apple looks and goes, we need some of this, or Tesla come back in the market, and another nation state, and the Saudis, and there's not a lot of Bitcoin to go around.
There's not. But I think that threshold, the Veblen threshold, is where you start to see Apple moving, because for a lot of people that are new to Bitcoin, it's hard to understand when you should go in. But when you overtake gold, psychologically, you've crossed the barrier that this is the new gold.
Yeah.
So like we talked about earlier, retail's not here yet because it's not high enough yet, right? So you get it. You get it implicitly. It's not high enough. But at 0.1 M, it's high enough.
I'm doing everything to not sell Bitcoin. Everything. Do you want to hear about my favorite trade of all time? So with I talked about this in a pod, I think, previously, but so with the podcast, outside of cash flow for paying wages, we keep everything in Bitcoin. All sponsorship money straight into Bitcoin. And at the end of my tax year in October, my accountant came in and my corporation tax bill was £177,000. It was 8.05 Bitcoin. I was like, I don't want to sell this Bitcoin. So I said to her, what happens if I don't pay the corporation tax? She said, they'll charge you 8% annual interest. I was like, okay, great. So I'm not selling that Bitcoin. And so anyway, we've got to, where are we now? March. And I think I've incurred about £6,000 of interest. And the bills dropped from 8.05 Bitcoin to I think about 3.4 Bitcoin. And so I said to her, she said, the tax office has been on the phone. They said, you need to pay the tax bill. I was like, okay, well, what's my deadline? She said, well, kind of now. I was like, well, what happens if I don't pay it? She said, well, he's going to phone me again. I was like, okay, and then what happens? And she said, well, then he's going to phone you. And I was like, okay, but then what happens? And she was like, well, he's going to tell you to pay it. And if you don't pay it, he's going to apply to the court. I was like, okay, and then what happens? She said, well, the court will write to you and say you've got to pay it. I was like, and then what happens? She said, you'll go to court and you get a court a judgment against you. I was like, okay, that's my deadline. I am not selling any. I want to get it down to under 1 Bitcoin. I want you to be right, and I want to get it under 1 Bitcoin.
Well, you will.
And
so this is your own speculative attack on the fiat system.
Yeah, fuck, they tax me enough. I want you to get as little Bitcoin of me as possible. Okay, wow, okay, so 1 million potentially this year.
It's looking like it, and it's not impossible. You're already seeing Omega candles in other markets, like in Egypt, in Turkey.
Egypt was 50% yesterday, wasn't it?
It was like 11 Omega candles. It went up like 1 million Egyptian pounds.
Because I think they devalued. Did they devalue the currency yesterday? Did they halve it?
Something like that. But,
ridiculous.
They saw a $1.4 million candle for the day.
Jesus.
But in Turkey, you're already seeing like regularly 2 Omega candles. That's why Omega candles are great. It's like a good measuring stick for what we're going to see in main Bitcoin, the dollar Bitcoin, dollar-denominated Bitcoin.
Jesus, man. How is the Jan 3rd stuff going?
It's pretty good. We're definitely seeing a lot more interest. We had a number of meetings last year. Meeting with the president of Colombia, Suriname, Prime Minister of Montenegro. And this year, it's just trying to get some of those across the finish line, but also trying to get more. But I think the meetings are going to come easier now that the ETFs are approved.
Right.
So we got those meetings before ETF, but post-ETF, that whole landscape has changed. It's no longer a discussion like, well, Bitcoin is used by criminals, right? No, it's used by BlackRock.
Is Jan 3rd, it's a business.
Yeah.
But approaching companies it sounds like a cross between, is it lobbying or consultancy or a bit of both?
Just spreading the good word about Bitcoin.
but okay, and so what, I'm not sure how much you can tell me about the meetings, and I'm sure a lot of